This show from Teachers Talk Radio. You can catch up with all our shows by visiting our YouTube channel or by listening back at ttradio.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to enjoy more live education conversation from TTR. We hope you enjoy this show.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.
Hello and welcome to AI in Education. This is the first show this academic year. Well, first show ever, really. So I'm not making any big claims there. I am here to talk about, as a teacher and a school leader, about AI in education. There was originally going to be a little blank space in the title, but it didn't quite work for optics, but it was being posted online. So it's kind of looking at AI in the something classroom. Tonight's focus, which is really important and has been a big part of the training that I've done at my school this year and a little bit last year, is focusing on how we can use AI to support our students with SEND. We have someone who's working in a specialist provision school today who is going to share his insights about how he's been using AI. And I know he's been using it for about 2 years now to support his learners and his teaching practice. But I think there's lots of takeaways for everybody because we're all special educational needs teachers. We are all working with students who have a diverse range of interests and abilities in our classroom. And there's lots we can take away on how we can apply that to our practice to support students in our classes. I've definitely been using tools like ChatGPT or Copilot, or even like things like Google Gemini, depending on kind of which ecosystem your school is, that are being baked more and more into the kind of ecosystems that we're used to. I've definitely been using it more and more to help me differentiate my classes, because hand on heart, it's like my 16th year of teaching and meeting the needs of the students that are in front of you. And for example, if they got I call it an IEP, but I think it's EHCP now in the UK. I left kind of as that was coming in, and we stuck with IEP in my school internationally. So I take those targets without the student's name to keep the kind of data privacy there, and just say, I'm going to teach this today. Can you give me some ideas on how I can do that and hit these targets? Because differentiating is one of the hardest things we can do. We all teach different knowledge and skills each lesson, and making sure we're supporting our students in the best way possible. Kind of I say every hour, my lessons are 45 minutes, but every hour on the hour is a challenge. And it's one of those things that can take a lot of time in terms of either thinking about what you're going to do, in terms of producing additional resources or materials for those students, or even trying to explore and trying to find out what tech or resources your school has. So I think there's a big place for artificial intelligence, be that kind of, call it old school now, old school machine learning, the stuff that was around before everyone paid attention when things like ChatGPT came out, but I think, and generative AI. So with our guest, we're going to unpack kind of as much as we can about how we can use AI to support our SEND students and all the students in our classroom. But to begin with, because I'm going to do this monthly, I'm going to try to do a little bit of a roundup of kind of news of things that happen. And I made the mistake of going into Claude and asked it. I did like the deep research, kind of go away and almost be like a PhD level researcher and find for me everything that's happened in AI in education since the 30th of June. I thought that was a good benchmark to go off. And what I got was like so many statistics that I couldn't even like break the wall of numbers that came back at me. So I then kind of just did a memory dump. And I think this is something we can speak out with our guest is I'm using more and more kind of voice modes in these tools just to talk at them. and describe what I'm after, and then get AI to kind of tidy that up. So I kind of just did a big kind of just like 5-minute speech into ChatGPT and kind of got it tidy up into a list. So a couple of things that have caught my eye over the summer have been obviously ChatGPT 5. Not a little bit of fanfare, some wild claims about being on par with the Manhattan Project, and then suddenly kind of a party popper, or kind of a, I don't know, it was supposed to be a fireworker. It ended up being a bit of a party popper. And within a couple of days, they were trying to open the old version, I think. And I'll touch upon this a little bit later in this kind of intro and with the guest, because it kind of was so sycophantic. It really was overly friendly and really overly supportive. And I think when they updated it, the new version, it was very dry and cold, and kind of they rolled that back quite a lot. And I think that actually put a lot of people off. I think a lot of people had got used to it, like really being very nice and being very, very, very kind of like, hey, wow, you smashed it with that prompt. Well done. It was like, it was a lot. But I think in a couple of months, people have got used to a lot. And I think when a lot was taken away, they weren't used to just being a cold, hard, like, here's the information you asked for, done. That's it. And again, if students have been using ChatGPT, which they are, and your staff have been doing it, the outputs they're getting now might be a little bit different in terms of supportiveness. And you might have to go around and support them a little bit more, because they're not getting like the way to go, you smashed it with what you've just done. Microsoft are releasing more kind of tools. I know our Copilot has had a little bit of an upgrade with, it's got a little try ChatGPT 5 button in there. And Grok, which I kind of have stayed away from, has touted that it's going to have in-car integration. It's got the weird anime companions and girlfriends, which I think we might have time to unpack that, which I think are incredibly dangerous. And if you've read anything in the news, are being targeted at like 12-year-olds, same as the kind of headlines about Meta and kind of their prompts, the kind of prompts behind their AI that got leaked, and how they've been set up to like be kind of like, I don't want to, like, I hope I can say this, be kind of like have a kind of a sexualized discussion with an 8-year-old, like was revealed that was like in that prompting, which I think like chatbots and these companions is something as schools that we need to be aware of, and having discussions with students, if that's an assembly, PSHE, having this discussion, because they're out there, these tools are out there, they're being promoted. If you go on LinkedIn, it's nice and kind of almost squeaky clean. People are discussing, they have a debate. Sometimes they fall out, but it's very professional. But if you go on to TikTok, you will see the narrative that's being pushed to students about how to use these tools. And it's very, very different. And I think you need to be aware that these things are out there. Those companion bots are out there. And linking onto that, it's been linked to a recent kind of like a load, I think, suicides in the past, a recent suicide as well, where the bot just kept encouraging the student to go down a particular pathway. So if you haven't looked into this or looked on the media about this, and you're planning your PSHE curriculum or an assembly or a bit of AI literacy in your school this year, I think that's definitely an avenue to explore more. And Notebook LM, that's built into, if you've got a Google ecosystem, you can now produce videos and do the podcasts in there in 80 different languages, from things that were hinted the other day. I think it's American English. I think British English will be coming soon from what I've seen online. And in the last couple of days, we've had Nano Banana, the new image generation from Gemini from Google. And I think I've seen more Elon Musk having like day trips and dinner parties with people in the last 24 hours than I've seen in my, I don't know, I got the internet when I was like in my 20s, so almost 20 years now. Just loads of, and I think that opens up, that's going to blow up a whole avenue of deep fakes and the ability to create them incredibly quickly. And again, that's something that is a thread to be pulled on, I think, in schools. And before I welcome our guest, I would just like to say that this show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning. They are publishers of professional development books and resources for great teaching and learning in schools around the world. I read many books from them. I've got lots on my shelf, And if you want to level up your professional development, visit Hachette, www.hachetteLearning.com, and I encourage you to explore their full range of titles. And without much ado, I'm going to welcome David Curran to the stage with a click of the button. And so welcome, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Matthew. And it's Curran, not Curran. Mr. Vemis.
Curran, sorry.
Mr. Veems.
Try my last name. I love it. Like I do get names wrong, even for the organizer of Teacher Talk Radio. I had to check how you actually pronounce one of the kind of sponsors' surnames, and I think my get out of jail card is my own last name.
yeah. It's funny when you know teachers for years and years, and you only know them as Mr. This or Miss That. Yeah. So,
well, that was the weird thing for me. I went from Mr. Weems in the UK and having to explain that over and over again. How do you spell it? And we just settled on Weems. It's like WEMZ helped as a shortcut. But then I came here and I was Mr. Matthew, which I think allowed me to reinvent my inner city London teaching persona into a different international character, the different role to play.
Excellent.
But speaking of stories there and how I transitioned from one role, one half of my name to the other half of the name in terms of teaching persona. Tell us your story. How did you get into education and then transition into SEND education?
And we've only got an hour. You
got 5 minutes, mate.
Right, okie dokes then. Long story short, I got my degree and then spent my 20s sort of doing every job I could do without getting a proper job, as my mum decided she would name it. Got into my 30s and I'd been kind of playing around. I worked in casinos previously. It takes about 6 weeks to train a croupier, so I was training croupiers. So that got me into kind of the teaching mode. And then decided to go back, get my teacher training. So I spent 17, 18 years in state education in a city school in Crawley, just outside London. And then spent a couple of years at an independent school. I decided the independent school wasn't really my kind of vibe. Amazing at what they did, amazing sports, amazing grades. But teaching wise, probably just didn't kind of resonate with me. And then I bumped into somebody I'd met or I'd talked with a few years ago on the beach. And he said, come and teach at this place. I'd written helped him write his personal statement and his reference for the job. And like I say, we met on the beach a few years later. So I now teach at a place called Moon Hall. It's in Reigate in Surrey, again, just outside London. This is going to be my 5th year, starting on Wednesday officially. We are a dyslexia specialist school. We've got about 200 students. We're an independent fee-paying school, but the majority of our students you mentioned before have got EHCPs and are paid for by state. So they're here for a reason. A majority of them, again, like I say, if they come from state, have got quite negative experiences of education. So it's about rebuilding trust. It's about making sure they can access education. I've gone from kind of 32, 34 students in a DT workshop to sort of 10 or 12 students in a computer room or in a workshop, still do DT. So I kind of, this world of AI has come along while I've been in quite, we've got personal devices, for example. So I'm in quite a privileged position. I feel that, and I have to, when I go talking to other schools and talking to other educationists, just making sure I can kind of transfer those skills and remember back when I was, 32, 34 students in a classroom.
So in the last couple of years, thanks, man. In the last couple of years, what impact has it had? Like, let's say November 2022, we had ChatGPT coming out, and what was your first maybe dabbling in that platform, and kind of did you see an impact then? I'll stop there. What was like the initial impact that you saw? Because I was going to go off on a rant that then you could talk for 2 hours. What was that initial impact that you had when kind of this generative AI kind of came mainstream?
I think a lot of it, ChatGPT in 2022, but I think a lot of it came off the back of what happened with COVID. And I'm a big one for banging drums for teachers. And that's not negating sort of the roles that everybody else does. But during COVID, we had to sort of completely change what we did and how we did it. And spending an awful longer time, we had, we were expected to have cameras on for teaching. So developing new resources, making sure that students could access those resources. We went through Teams, Microsoft Teams at the time. And I think it was that kind of transition, moving away from sort of classroom-based. For example, I just started to look at electronic digital portfolios for our DT coursework for GCSE and A-level. So we started to use PowerPoint. And of course, then we moved into COVID, and everything had to move on online. What I found was I kind of chanced upon it. So having sort of taught for so long, you kind of deal with the issues that are in front of you and the students that are in front of you. And I'm a head of careers as well. And very much it's about skills over subjects. So it's kind of what skills I can teach through my subject, and communication skills, resilience skills, kind of independent skills, those making 3D tasks, creative thinking, critical thinking when you've got to analyze. And it's all those skills that really sort of came to the fore with some students. Some students really took to COVID and online learning. And I just found that it was a case of, it's changed the way that I deliver, for example. So you used to kind of stand at the front and you used to do a 10, 15-minute spiel, I now kind of break things down into smaller chunks. I kind of get students going, and then I can get amidst them. And that kind of changed with COVID. And I found certain students that maybe didn't necessarily focus in class, I wasn't kind of maybe aware of their SEN needs within the classroom because of the sheer volume of students that I had. But when you can sort of spend time sending students off and then read some of their background, and then suddenly realize that some of these students can't access it because when I gave them a worksheet, they couldn't read the worksheet, or they were kind of looking around. Now, all of a sudden, things like text-to-speech, speech-to-text, the original AIs, rather than this generative AI from sort of 2022, that kind of, it just became commonplace in what I was teaching. And then my niece was, during COVID, diagnosed with dyslexia. My youngest daughter, 2 years into my role at Moon Hall, was screened for dyslexia as well. So I've kind of, she's got kind of processing issues in school, and it's finding kind of, I go to school and kind of provide these provisions for us, for our students in Moon Hall, and then I've got kind of the same issues but different circumstances with my daughter. And I found what was happening is, in helping her do so, and you'll do this as well as a family man, it starts to take away from some of that daddy-daughter time. So I started to look into kind of ways of kind of this new thing called AI, how I could use it. So I started using things like ChatGPT to help with maths support. And again, since met a guy called Phil from Manchester, who's sort of been all over ChatGPT because of it, and kind of had a few good chats with him. And it was kind of just getting back that daddy-daughter time. So rather than me sit there and kind of force her to do her maths and then her give it to me and me kind of mark it and maybe go through something, it meant we could go through something together. And that's kind of my philosophy in the classroom as well. So it kind of married up well. And I found that I could then transfer those skills into what I was doing in the classroom. Now, when I was brought in, we took assistive technology out of the IT curriculum and called it assistive technology. So our students fortunately have an hour a week where they do text-to-speech, speech-to-text, we do mind mapping, we do touch typing. It's all the kind of the IT skills that they need to access the curriculum. So it's been very, very easy to integrate AI into our curriculum. And now our students don't even think twice about it. They're just kind of using it. It's not the big thing for them.
So for you yourself, because I know yourself and I, we maybe a little bit further down the line than some teachers, and we do use some AI platforms which are safe and secure in the classroom. And I want to touch upon that a little bit later. But is there any starting tips for a teacher who is maybe just beginning to get sat down with a Copilot or a free ChatGPT or something, and they're just thinking, okay, how can I get started? How can I get started here? And how could I potentially use this to support me, to support my learners? Yeah.
With my daughter, I can sit down with ChatGPT in the classroom, and safeguarding issues mean slightly different. So I started to look at kind of platforms for chatbots, which is where I met you. I'm doing a live webinar. I'm kind of stayed in touch since. And I think that's it. I mean, LinkedIn, John Dolman, I did an AI sprint with him recently, and one of his lines was LinkedIn is his greatest ever CPD. And I wholeheartedly agree with him there. It's a case of just kind of find your champions. So find your people that you can talk to. It's a really strong network there. Talk openly with people at school. It's amazing how many people, when you start having that conversation, it's as though it's a naughty word still, you know, and we're still, 2-3 years down the line. And in some schools, like say my daughter's in a state school, it's not used, it's banned. So there's still people kind of wanting to use it and maybe using it in the background. Have those conversations. I think that's the first step. Have those conversations, find out what you want to do and make AI do what you want it to do. Don't see it as like a bolt-on. I think that's one of the big things. It's not like learning to knit or learning to paint or learning a new sport. It's kind of, what do I do already? What are some of the admin tasks, for example? How do I get AI to help me do what I already do?
Have you got any examples there? Like, for example, with admin or like planning? For me, the first time I got access, and I was just messing around at first, like just asking some jokes, like, oh, I've got this in my cupboard. Can you plan my meal for me? And then I like sat down and said, oh, I need a lesson plan on some computer science topic. And I was like, oh, okay, this is okay. And then is there anything where you had that moment where you thought, okay, actually, this is a really useful way of me doing a task, which doesn't take away from my connection with students or my ability to, I don't know, to worry about thinking or diminishing those skills, where actually I can outsource something that can be kind of rote, repetitive, but actually enhances what I'm doing. So I've rambled a bit there, but have you got something where you're like, okay, this is the thing that's made me want to do it more?
I've got two things. The first one is that, and we've spoken about this before, I hate this phrase about like giving teachers time back, because even though I've got AI, I don't seem to find I've got any more time. But what I am able to do is I'm able to give multiple access points for if it's a worksheet, it could be online, it could be a paper worksheet. I could, for example, when we're prompting, I could rewrite a worksheet with a different reading age. So, for example, my DT students, they're all 15, 16 years old, but with a dyslexia, their reading age might be 12, 13, or 14, for example. So I can rewrite a sheet and I can hand out two worksheets, or I can post two different worksheets on Teams. So I think the ability to be able to give students multiple access points for the same task, I think is just, it's not giving me any more time, but it just means then that if I can get a few more students, because I've lowered the reading age on a worksheet, but I've still given that worksheet out to stretch the higher ability. Now I've got a few more students who are willing to give it a go because they can access it. Now I can go and I can sit with little Johnny or whoever it is that's really struggling with the work. So it gives me that little bit more time to go one-to-one or small group in the classroom. So it's that differentiation of tasks is absolutely amazing. Just kind of the other one, I mean, we spoke about before, things like chatbots, and I'll give you a story in a bit, but with careers, my head of careers hat on, you've got so many different kind of conversations going on in a classroom, and it's very, very difficult to track, because the student who wants to become a car mechanic isn't the student who wants to become a vet, who isn't the student who wants to go into hair and beauty. And you're trying to have all these conversations in a class, and even though I might only be dealing with 12 students now, it's still like 5, 10, 12 different conversations that I'm having. So to be able to set up, I mean, we started off with ChatGPT, and we've now got dedicated chatbots built on a certain platform, and I can set students, we can kind of have a quick discussion, and then I can set students off. And then when students are off, they find that they can ask lots of questions, and then they'll come back to me. So there's always that human in the loop. I make sure there's a human in the loop. I can monitor conversations. I can check for safeguarding. My head of careers hat on, I can kind of have a look and see what they're interested in. And then I find that because I've given them half an hour as a group, just individually looking and then maybe sharing with the person next to them or their peers, when I come to have that one-to-one careers conversation with them, the conversations have already started. They've already got some knowledge and an understanding of what's out there, of what they want personally. So it means when I've got that sort of half an hour one-to-one chat with them, or when I sort of chat with them in the corridor, I've got a starting point. So yeah, two things: differentiation, lots of different access points, and number two, it's that multiple conversations going on in the classroom. That AI just allows students to have multiple conversations with an AI and then bring it all back to that human in the loop.
Yeah, because one thing that I've been doing this week, because being back in the flow, and I'm supporting my year 13s. They're not the strongest coders, and I'm being very polite to them there. And what they need is a lot more practice and allowing AI to quickly generate more tasks. Or I could just go something like, "Hey, what's going on in your life?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm studying for my driving test." Okay, let's do a load of like programming activities for you about your driving test. And then I collect all those tasks in. I mark them as the teacher. I mark on Teams, so I write all my comments up. I export those comments, process them with AI, and go, okay, what's the connecting things here? What are the things I need to look at? Is there one comment in particular that stands out? And then generate more activities or direct my teaching in those different directions, and just have that ability to have an insight and then quickly make something, for me, has been one of the kind of, I hate the word game changer, but I'm going to say game changer for the first time in almost 3 years. I'm going to say the word game changer. Is like, and you said, I still have, say, 30 minutes, but I think in that 30 minutes, I feel like I can do more. I feel like I can just get through a lot of things that might have gone in the past. I haven't got time to make that or do that. So I'm just going to shelf that and do the next best thing instead, which was probably a little bit lower quality, but it's what I could have the capacity for. So I think I've got a little bit more capacity than before. Have you felt that, or are you just basically? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No. It's a great point. It's like I say with careers. So for example, students who are going on who want to do apprenticeships because they're just sick to death of school and don't want to stay in the school system, don't want to sit and hear about sixth form colleges, and they don't want to hear about A-levels. What they want to do is they want to know about what they want to know about. They want to know about what the options are, because obviously we want to make sure they know what A-levels are and what those options are, but they can briefly go over it and then they can move on. So the little chatbot, careers chatbot that I've got, FuturesBot, it allows different students to have completely different conversations all in the same classroom. And it means that I can then move from student to student. So I've got an overview. So I can go in and I can see that students in apprenticeships and go, oh, have you thought about such and such? Or a student might be sitting there and they're kind of flicking randomly through it, and I can sit and spend a little bit more time with that student because that's the student that's really not sure. So it highlights to me which students know what they want to do and they just want to know how to get there and what's the information, so I can set them off. And then I've got the students I can spend a little bit more time with, who might have more questions, or who might not be comfortable with IT. They want that interaction. They want that human interaction. That works again with subjects as well. So, for example, we've all been in that situation. I translate. There's a lot of negatives in my education that I kind of translate into my teaching. And what I used to hate was when you used to have to sit there as a group and go through 30 questions. Yeah. Because, when there's 34 kids in your classroom and 4 kids have got it wrong, 30 kids don't want to go through question 1 again.
Yeah, exactly.
So to be able to sort of give them their test back, having marked them, that's the human element. And then put my comments on, like you say, whether I handwrite them or whether I sort of generate them and put them on digitally. It means that the students can access those comments and they can then work on whatever they need to work on as an individual. They can use their little chat bot to go and look up, various polymers while other students looking up different types of metals. And it just allows them to go at different levels. I can post websites, I can post videos, I can put multiple media up there as well. So the student that wants to sit there and read. One of my students, you mentioned Notebook LLM. Notebook LLM there. I've got an account. Now we're tend to be a Microsoft school, so we've not got Google accounts. So I generally use it. One of my year 11 students this year absolutely loves the podcast. And what he does is, because our students come in, like say they get shipped in by minibus. So some of them have got about an hour on a minibus in and an hour out. So what he used to do is download them on his iPod, and he just used to sit there and listen to them. And then when he get into class, he could basically quote them verbatim. Now, his skill was then translating that information into what was the question and what information is needed for the answer. But now he's got a whole heap of information in his head. So my teaching changed. I don't need to teach him, give him that information. What I need to do is get him to access the question and then exam answer practice. So I know that student can do that. Whereas another student I know hasn't done any revision whatsoever. So I know that I need to make sure that they've got the knowledge and the understanding, or the textbook or the website or the video, or me, for example, to sit there and actually go through some of the knowledge and understand, well as I know that student can go and do what he needs to do.
And I'm gonna take that point as a segue. And you generating AI podcasts, or if you're looking for a human podcast, please, I recommend you check out Chalk and Talk with Anna Stokey. Anna is a passionate advocate for evidence-based maths for students of all ages. And on her podcast, she talks about everything from effective teaching methods, how-to guides, teaching math facts, tips for evaluating research shows claims. And she brings top-notch guests, educators, researchers, and policymakers even, put my teeth in, and discusses issues that directly impact teachers and students. Chalk and Talk is for anyone interested in education, and you can find it wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm going to look back to what you were just saying about...
seamless, man, seamless.
Obviously, there we go. You talking about marking and then that next step. And obviously, as I said at the beginning, and I'm very conscious that not everyone is in a place where their school might allow it, or they might not be comfortable yet to put AI in their actual classroom. And if you take a step back of how you can be a conduit for the AI yourself, I have found, as I kind of alluded to earlier, that the ability for me to kind of go, okay, this kid's struggling, let me generate a resource or a guide that's on their level. And they need this and they need that. They need these questions. And just the ability to make that. Have you found and again, if you were just to unplug chatbots for 5 minutes from your practice, and I know they're in there, but is there anything that you found if you were just stripped back to Notebook LM and a ChatGPT or a Copilot, what would you do then?
For me?
Yeah.
One of the great stories I heard for Alex Moore, STEM Learning, was LLMs have allowed him to generate cover lessons on the corridor on the way down.
Oh, I've done that before. I've suddenly taken a picture of a textbook, of a chemistry textbook, A-level, and suddenly I'm like an expert. Kids ask me any question, like, yeah. Let me just go over here, like look out the window at the PE that's going on. Oh yeah, it's like this kind of bond, and like, yeah, it's all about this. Like, no. I think last time I went into the science lab was like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
It's great for that.
It is. It is. And then we move on to things like hallucinations and bias and the information that it spits out. And do you have time?
I might go against the grain here, and I don't teach a humanities or an English subject, which I've got to caveat my next statement with this. I've not found, because I think I'm mainly asking for like hard educational facts, like established computer science, or in that case, like this is a type of bond or something like that. I've not found in my day-to-day teaching practice, like much made up stuff. I don't know if it's because I'm asking very specific questions. I'm never going like, okay, so who invented this thing? Like maybe it's the level that I'm going into, maybe. But have you ever come across anything that was like completely wild?
Careers wise, because obviously there's a lot of conflicting information out there. So definitely make sure we're using sort of resources. But that's whether it's AI or whether it's Google. You know, if for students, it's kind of become commonplace that you ask a question, and you know, even if you're sitting in the pub, don't you just flick open your phone, you Google it, you know, and then the first kind of website that you get to, that's kind of the information that you take on board. Or if you're a student doing the homework, you know, the not so clever kid goes to the first website, and the clever kid goes 3 pages in and 3 websites down, and then copies and pastes that information, thinking that you're not going to find that either. It's you have kind of, and I mean, you alluded to it there. I mean, you've been teaching, 16, 17 years?
And I'm not saying I've had wild stuff outside of the classroom. Like I was asking it for a task the other day, and I knew something was in this document, and it kept saying it wasn't. And I was like, but it is though. But when I've been dealing with like maybe it's because I'm computer science and I'm dealing with like if statements and while loops and like things that are quite, no one's going to make up that there's no if statements, if you know what I mean? Like there's not going to be conflicting information. Maybe it's my subject, but I've not found when I'm in the classroom that I've had anything like crazy. I've had a bit of VAC, but I think that's out there. That was in my teacher training. So like, I think that pops up every now and then. But yeah, you do have to check. Like my thing is that the outputs have been beyond the course. Like it's give them like master's level coding solutions that have a lot of things they can't do yet or don't understand yet. And then I had to go, okay, give it a bit more context for like, this is the course, here's where you have to stop. But again, that's me. Another teacher might put that out, but I know exactly as the specialist or in the room or the person who knows the course and what they need to know, that like, this is too beyond, or it's, I don't know, maybe I'm filtering it all the time. And I think that's the same as you were saying.
Yeah. I'd like to say with you, you've got so much experience that something feels wrong. And I think you and I kind of, when we ask questions, so for example, you know, if I have an open book for one of my DT, it might be a question, I don't know, what's ABS, you know, and a student will look it up and they'll come out back with, I don't know, is it anti or air braking system? And you think, no, we're talking about polymers here. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be something to do with polymers and plastics. So my brain tells me that answer's wrong, whereas they just want to know what the question was literally, what does ABS stand for? So they'll come back with the first Google hit that matches. Whereas you kind of, with your experience, you can kind of detect whether or not something's wrong. And I think it goes one step further. I wouldn't then type into Google, what does ABS mean? So, you know, if I was going into ChatGPT, I would immediately say, you know, you're an expert on polymers. Now, my first statement negates that hallucination because I've given it enough information. So maybe the way that you ask the questions of LLMs is kind of...
Well, I think that's it. Like there's tons of prompting frameworks and I came late to the game and I don't even remember what mine is off the top of my head right now, but it doesn't rhyme. That's probably why everyone had taken the ones that sounded nice and made like a nice word. But context is so key, and constraints like things you don't want, or potentially if your school does like a you do, I do, you do, we do, or like a certain pattern, you can put that in and get that. If you want keywords, like if you want certain things to be in the lesson, say like, oh, I want certain things to be in the lesson. So I think that is like super key. I'm going to run through a couple of features of generative AI now and unpack them to see if you found any useful use cases from the classroom. And let's go for images. We'll go text last. So AI generated images getting better all the time. Have you found something that works really well for them in the class?
Yes. So one of my favorite tasks, again, is that it's that constant human AT AI. So what we'll do, for example, is we'll set up the laptops. We'll have their documents there ready, you know, and they'll have an assignment. So it'll be a blank Word document, for example. And I'll say, right, okay, today we're going to do a written task on. And I will say, I'm going to give you a title, and then I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, you're not allowed to say anything. You're not allowed to disturb anybody, or all you've got to do, I want you to think. Okay. So I might, for example, say, so I'll do it with you and we'll do it for 5 seconds. Yeah. I want you to, in your head, I want you to imagine the door. Okay. Right. Now I'll then say, right, you've got 2 minutes. In that 2 minutes, all I want you to do, okay, you can type it or you can dictate it if you want to. I just want you to describe the door. Okay. And then you'll have 2 minutes to either type it, and then you've got 2 minutes on your own. This is all independent work. So that's 4 minutes of independent work. Okay. And the hardest bit is keeping students independent, particularly when some of them are then using the dictate. They're kind of used to me now. So we've developed an environment where they'll dictate and they kind of zone out of others doing it. Yeah. At the end of the 2 minutes, we'll copy and paste that. And we've got a few free AI text to image generators, and we'll just copy and paste it into a text to image generator. Oh my goodness, the look on their face when they see their image coming back at them and they go, that's not my door. And I'll say, well, why not? Well, it's green. Well, in your description, what did you put? Well, I didn't put anything. I said, right, so all AI's done is filled the gaps. And it's really, and then there's obviously the other bits where some students just look at it and it's like gobsmacking. It's like they've got something in their head, and particularly students who may struggle to sort of write things down and communicate that information. And I know we've had these conversations with yourself as well. When all of a sudden you can get information from your head and you can see it in front of you, the look on some of the students' faces, it's just like magic. And
I think for that, you mentioned some AI generators, and I know that schools can access Canva for free. This isn't a plug for them, but I know it's a free tool. That's a good one that you could do with students. You can control access. Or I've done something which in my school is called like AI by proxy, almost where like the students are a marionette controlling the teacher, where the teacher will get the prompt, they'll generate the image safely on the screen. So if your school doesn't have direct access to devices, it's something a teacher could potentially do live on the screen. Or you could use one of the free tools, which is safe for schools. Like they are out there, and if anyone wants to contact myself and David, we can put you in the right direction. We don't have t-shirts on saying we're not branded. No tattoos for those that head for tattoos.
Yeah, no,
but we can direct you to some which are safe to use. But yeah, that I've had it in drama where they've put a picture of like a treasure island up, and then that's gone off and inspired the piece of acting. So it's cool. It's cool the other way around to inspire an action. Let's go for audio. You mentioned Notebook LM. Any other audio use cases where you could generate, like, other than a podcast?
We've had a bit of fun with text to song generators. And again, it's kind of using multiples. So we do it on the premise that we're creating revision materials. But yeah, it's, might use a chatbot, or might use ChatGPT, for example, to write a short little poem or song about, I don't know, photosynthesis. And then you can copy and paste those lyrics into your text to song generators. And then you can choose your particular style. And then students can then create a revision song about that. Now, one student took it to heart and she produced some really nice short little songs. It's a great little piece for staff CPD. And I think a lot of it, I don't know necessarily how beneficial it is to the learning. Like say, I know one student who, it was beneficial to. I think it's very, very powerful in being able to see what AI can do. And as soon as you see if it can do that with song, what's it actually doing to words and context and images. So it's very, very quick and very, very visual. So it's a good teaching tool to show how AI works, or how Gen AI works.
I've not had that much of a success rate with audio, but because we're in all through school, I've pivoted because I've seen from having a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, like how much these songs stick in their heads, and from driving back on the school run, listening to these songs, and how much they stick in my head. So I think I'm going to try more kind of like the younger students to see if these work, and like make bespoke ones about certain things that the school does that might be unique to the school that you might not find on YouTube or wherever you might get a song from. I have found, though, my experimentation, if you ask, because I've been generating with an AI, like I'm not a songwriter. My wife is, I'm not so much. Asking it to make them an earworm helps for the revision. If you make make something that's going to like get in your head and have a little loop. And for my kids, I've been jumping. And again, I'm not going to promote a movie, but I have been promoted as like some K-poppy style ones because that's very in vogue at the moment. They've kind of liked some of those. So I've just been my test audience has been my kids because it generates a couple. I'm going like, which one of these do you like the most? So I'm working on a little bank of curriculum learning songs for EYFS that are K-pop earworms at the moment. That's my side project.
Okay. I think Jack Dougal did singing storybooks a while back, didn't he?
Yeah, I saw his gorilla as well. And speaking of his gorilla, video. We can create cool stuff with video now. Have you found any use cases? Again, it's brand new. You can only do about 8 seconds on a good one. Have you used any AI videos in the classroom?
In the classroom for teaching, yes. And for posting, yes. I'm not. It's one of those where I mean, the free one that we use, you get 5 goes. So you can make 5 little short 5-10 second video clips. The students are done within about 10 minutes, whereas some students will have used 2, and will take the other 3 credits and they'll still be doing stuff at home. So in some ways, I'm always kind of reluctant to create that as my lesson. It can be part of a lesson. So yeah, like I say, we did the little storybooks. So we started to use one of the free versions and then put them into little storybooks, into Canva storybooks. But yeah, it's limited, and you've got to get it right, haven't you? And this immediacy generation, this sort of TikTok generation, if it's not right first time, then do you know what I'll do? I'll copy and paste the same prompt, change one word, and that's it. So it's good for getting students to stop and take a step backwards and get them to think. So quite often in class, if we're using AI, I'll get them to look, stop, just physically stop, and you've got to think about it rather than just keep banging away until you've used up your credits and it's all gone.
Yeah. And at this point, I would say if you are this is a big pivot, not as smooth as the last one, teacher of history and geography or RS, if so, get along to Manchester on September the 20th of September, so real soon, for the Teacher Talk Radio Humanities, a day of CPD networking that's completely free. And you can grab your tickets on the pin posts on Teacher Talk Radio X account, or visit ttradio.org/events. And I'm going to share a little worry with you about AI generated videos. And it's not deepfake based. I have seen some cool ones online where I can see that you could make a little character and you can embed that into a Google Classroom or a Teams and make an open-ended, you can go down this path and there's someone there to explore you. So you might know what you kind of use a chatbot to guide that, but you could have different avenues where a student could explore and have a little video. So they could be more independent and someone's like a guide posted there. But I've seen some guys in trenches, doing streaming. And I'm like, is that going to make a kid think they had phones in the trenches? And they're like, oh, I dropped out there. The Wi-Fi went down. I was like, is that going to make a year 7 kid think that there was Wi-Fi? You know what I mean? I'm just worried that we need to check. Same with audio, same with anything. I think you have to listen to them and you have to check the content's good. And I think that is, speaking about time earlier, I think that's where some of the time can go, is you have to check.
Yeah. Well, I think you and I are very much about kind of, is the curriculum what it's meant to be at the moment? Yeah. And it doesn't really allow for those conversations. Now, if you've got a year 7 student that goes, they had mobile phones in the trenches, that's a heck of a conversation to have. Do you know what I mean? It's such an opening. You've got a child who's genuinely asking a question there, and you could do a yes, no, shut them down answer, or you can ask him an open-ended question back. Well, what do you think? How long do we have phones for?
Well, I suppose things like that, and I see all these, and I do stop because I am aware that using these tools has an environmental cost. But sometimes we'll stop on a squiffy-looking image, or going, oh, that video might be okay, or that song is it's not the lyrics are fine, it says everything, but it's not the best. But do you know what? It's okay. And being okay and having a few little, a weird thumb or something like that, that can be a conversation starter to a broader kind of what this is, what the technology is, where you might see it. And I think it's good that sometimes it looks a bit weird at this point.
Yeah. Like you mentioned fake news there. There's a lot of it going on, a lot of sort of war propaganda at the moment going on as well. And these are great conversation openers.
I had Robert Downey Jr. trying to give me $3,000 the other day. It was a dream.
Oh, nice.
Perfect him and Mark Ruffalo, their voices talking backwards and forwards. All I had to do was click a link and give my bank details. It was fine. I'm rich now. But you know what I mean? This looks so convincing, and these videos are getting more and more real. And it's crazy. And I think that the more freely available this technology becomes, I think even with young students, and I know I've got strong feelings about like people monitoring kids' access to technology. I'm not like saying I'm not anti-technology. I'm just thinking there's an age limit on some of these things for a reason. So giving them free-for-all access to something like TikTok when they're 8, like, what are they going to be seeing? You know what I mean? Like, it's like that kind of, like, what are they going to be seeing? And if they don't know, if we're not talking about real and what's unreal and like leading on this, it's going to get real confusing real quick, I think. And I think that it's, and I'm going to ask about code quickly because we've got 10 minutes left. So I'm going to pick up about, have you any used any, like, the vibe coding is around now? Any vibe coding apps, platforms? No? Behind the curve?
Not knowingly.
Not knowingly. Oh, there we go.
No, because you've used it with Canva. I've seen some of your posts.
Yeah, Canva's got it in there, so it's useful for teachers. But I'm not gonna. If you haven't used it, I'm not gonna wax lyrical. And it's you are the guest.
No. You sell me. You sell me. You got 2 minutes. Sell me.
I would say that, instead of creating a worksheet or a resource, what I can do is take that next level and get it to. If you think of anything like this, a JavaScript thing, like something you might find online, like a small game or something like that, it can do that level really well. It's not, I tried to get like a World War trench where I walked around it. Like that's way too advanced for what it can do. But anything that's like a classic online game kind of thing, you can generate one of those and you can go, okay, I can generate. I've got 8 kids in my year 13 class who need a bit of extra help. I could generate 8 different things for them in 10 minutes max. That's exactly what they need. Okay, this person needs help with this bit of coding. Again, Canva's got a nice little voice button. I can speak what that kid needs. Generate me something which is going to help recap this. Boom, that kid gets that on Teams. So I can create bespoke learning revision games based on each kid's need within 10 minutes. And it's one of those things where you can do it for a whole class. And it's just, the only thing it can't do right now is feed those things back to you. But like if you're circulating, and I tried to get it at the end, always had a bit of an output screen for the kids to tell them what they did well and what they need to work on. So at least I can circulate and can do a quick like little scan of those things. But yeah, and then kids can play them as many times as they like. So that is my new way of. Have I just again? I'm always full of self-doubt. Have I replaced a worksheet with vibe coding? Who knows? But I think it's useful. Like it's a quick little thing to begin with the class, and we're going to explore how we could use it for feedback. As you said, those kids who are sitting there waiting, if you could generate like a nice little interface and it's got every question, and we did this, and you click on it and it goes to another screen and it's got like a worked example and some challenge questions. The kid who only got two out of those 30 questions could just click on those 2 and be working on something, and then they can take that home. So we're thinking about ways we can kind of give more feedback or more precise feedback in ways that would have either cost us a ton of printing. Yeah, just thinking of ways we can use it in our pedagogy. It's early days. We're just like, we are vibing with it at the moment. But yeah, it is cool. I
like escape rooms, isn't there? Like subjects escape.
Yeah,
rooms.
you can make things like that. It's pretty cool. And in the last couple of 8 minutes, we're going to go into any mistakes you've made along the way.
Oh, tons.
Your deepest, darkest confession, now, sir.
Oh, absolute tons. Just kind of copying and paste. That's
the worst one, isn't it? Copy and paste without reading, without checking it. And you walk around and go, sir, why does this say, what's this thing here, sir? And you're like, oh, that's on me. And you've got to, I am honest with them, that's on me. I am the human in the loop. And I was a lazy subpar human in the loop.
But we keep coming back to it. These are the conversations that we need to have. You know, we need to move away from sort of subject, and start talking. Mistakes are good. Do you know what I mean? We all make mistakes. One of the things I've really sort of enjoyed was the fact that ChatGPT came in, and we had our year 9, so our 13-year-olds and above, because we had this 1 hour a week. I could use it. So our year 9s, the first half of the year, we did our options careers program. So as well as kind of the text to speech, speech to text, we did our options programs. So after Christmas, when we came back, it meant that kind of this new thing called ChatGPT was around, and we had an hour a week. So I very much went along the journey with the students. So for the first year or so, I didn't. I've got my student account which is a free account. So I've got that one, and then I've got my personal one for doing sort of my professional stuff outside. But in the classroom, I use the free account, and I think that's quite. I think you've got to kind of go on the journey with your students, because you ask them to do something, and you generate that fourth image because you're using the free account, and they've created 3 images, which you mentioned before is a sustainability issue, but it's also kind of a capacity. So you've got to make sure that the students are able to do what you're doing when you're demonstrating it in front of you. So yeah, I've done things like that where I've kind of demonstrated something and then realized that the link doesn't work, or that, that they can't mirror what you're doing. Exactly. Create little chatbots for DT, which was my first ever one. And even though it's still sort of technology, finding out that the kids are downloading recipes for cookies and things because you haven't ring fenced it. So yeah,
maybe we could do another one on chatbots later. But I think that's the biggest thing you forget. You test it doing all the positive things, and then you don't check that it go off and do something rogue. And I think kids in a class will always find a way to circumvent your lesson, even if it's one you've done for 16 years. There's always like a loophole in a new approach.
And if my students aren't pushing back, then I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I'd like to say this show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools all over the world. And level up your professional development today and visit www.hachetteLearning.com to explore a full range of titles. And we have about 3 minutes. So is there anything that you feel that if I was brand new, like we never met, and I was just like, I've got Copilot, or I've got Gemini because I'm in that kind of ecosystem, what would be the thing you could tell me I could go away and do tomorrow that would be a little bit useful and get me going?
Right. So what are you teaching tomorrow?
I am teaching how to, it's very exciting, how serial and sequential file organization works.
Okay. And have you got that same lesson you've been teaching for 12 years?
I've been teaching it for 5 since the spec changed. So
okay. For 5 years then. Right. Okay. Go in, find an LLM and just explain. Just say, throw it back at the LLM. You're an expert in, tell it what the subject is, tell it what your course is, say how many students you've got. Create me a new and interesting way in which to approach this, and just see what ideas it comes back. And then it's having that conversation. So for example, ChatGPT is called ChatGPT for a reason. Have a conversation with it. If it doesn't look right, then ask it the questions. If you want it in a table, if you want it in a different, you brought me on here as SEN, if you want it for a different reading age, if you want it for, whatever you want, make it what you want it to be. But it's like having another conversation with somebody. It's very, very easy. Like I say, to think that using AI is kind of a bolt on. It's not. Do what you normally would do and just use it as your little sort of helper. But please remember, when you give it one instruction, it will run away and go and do that one instruction. So before you think strategically about your prompts before you press return. Dan Fitzpatrick was my first one, so I still use his prep from way back when. Your prompt, your role, your explicit instruction, and your parameters. So I still write down you are an expert in, I am a, whatever it is. These are the roles. What are my explicit instructions? And then parameters, always use UK British English, give it a reading age, tell it to chunk it for dyslexic, dyslexic readers. And so make sure it's accessible, make sure it's empathetic towards whoever your neurodivergent readers are. Very, very simply with accessibility, it's a well-worn kind of path, or well-spoken kind of, if you can make, it's this ramp, isn't it? If you can clear the ramp of snow rather than the stairs, then everybody can get up the ramp. So if you can make your lesson accessible for your dyslexic learners, your ADHD learners, then it's accessible for all students. So just spend that little bit of a time and ask an LLM for like a different point of view, or challenge what you think is correct, and then see how many people you can sort of give inroads to. I'm going
to cling on the fact you said the word time there and say we are absolutely out of time. So thank you very much. I'm going to say your name right on the way out. So thank you very much, David Curran. And we'll hopefully everyone will tune back in a month's time.
Outstanding and world-class vision and world-class this.
I'm a real leadership geek, honestly. I've spent my whole career reading books and chatting to people.
I just find the whole thing and the announcement, the way it's been announced, bizarre.
If you could move away from a model where teachers are so intensely focused.